Okay, so welcome officially to 6-3 and our FIFO week. We've had a lot of already build up into the differences between weighted average and FIFO. I think this is as clear as I put it. I've kept this over the years despite various changes in how I say things. I think this illustration gets at the point pretty well. We're not tracking individual units. So the only thing that could be first in are the dollars and equivalent units that are in beginning WIP. We don't make any distinction between what we worked on in the 2nd of the month and the 30th of the month. They're all not tracked. We just count them at the end of the month. So the only way something can be first in is if it's in beginning WIP. That's the only separation there is. And so in FIFO, the first in stuff has to go first out. So it's just the difference between how we treat beginning WIP in FIFO versus weighted average. And what flows from that is we have to calculate our numerator for our rates differently because we can't include those beginning WIP. We cannot include those beginning WIP costs. Otherwise, we'd be double counting those costs. They're going to be first out. And then also we'd be including them in a rate to go to these other categories here. We'd be double counting those costs and then the accounting would be all screwed up. And secondly, we have to also say, well, we shouldn't include those equivalent units in the denominator because they're also going to be double counting the equivalent units worth of work that we're doing as well. And we'll end up with numbers askew because of that as well. I wanted to point out, I like the way it rhymes here. When we're in step 3, when we get to that point, sorry, those first two things I said about we change the numerator in the rates and then we change the denominator in the rates because we can't include those beginning WIP units. That means TEU is calculated differently. Those are things that are covered in 6-3. And then the last change is in 6-4, step number 3, when we're allocating the rates. We had to learn in 6-2 a few of the problems, a few of the times, a number of you were tempted to use your TEU knowledge to apply costs. The cost would say, how much is units completed? And you'd say, well, I know, take total equivalent units equals, and you would somehow take total equivalent units, multiply by some rate, and try to get the answer that way. But that would be wrong, because TEU is just the denominator for the rate. You've already used it. And now, when we're calculating how much cost is in units completed, we're going to multiply the rates by the units completed. The last thing we do with FIFO is we're just doing units completed or equivalent units completed. With this period's work, which means units completed minus beginning WIP equivalent units. And then make sure we remember that we also include those beginning WIP costs because they were the first in, they have to be the first out. Now I don't want to break down that barrier of, well, at step 3 I can forget TEU, because there's a way in which it does play a role, or it fits. It's a kind of a poetic sort of thing. So with weighted average, TEU equals units completed plus ending WIP equivalent units. And under FIFO, TEU equals units completed minus beginning WIP equivalent units plus ending WIP equivalent units. And so basically what we're doing, we're taking the beginning WIP dollars here, I'm recreating that T account, and current period dollars, and distributing them to ending WIP and units completed. This amount and this amount, got to figure out the dollar amounts there. And what we do is we calculate the rate using this denominator, and then we multiply by units completed to get there, multiply by ending WIP equivalent units to get what's there. And under FIFO, there's some poetry that goes on here. I'll recreate, like I said, my beginning WIP. Oof. Start that over. Current period costs That goes over for sure. And then this gets divided between the two. What we do is we take this term right here to figure that out, and this term right here to figure that out. So in a way, TEU kind of does play a role in step 3, but I'm always asking the question, how much is to units completed? And so you're only going to use this section of the TEU equation to figure that out. Or I'm asking how many dollars are in ending WIP. So you only use this part of the equation to figure that out. So you have to kind of take the denominator you used for this period's rates, break it into its pieces, and then use those constituent pieces to multiply out the rates to distribute these dollars, is the idea. So if that helps it seem a little less haphazard and a little less like random numbers, I want to lay that out to you. So I hope that helps in the sense that memory is a funny thing. Memory works based on cues. And when you have, say, 2 nodes, I memorize this means this, there aren't a lot of connections being made. This can cue this, or A can cue B, or maybe B can cue A, backwards. You got to remember it. But if you then add in C, you now have A can cue C, which can cue B, B can cue C, which can cue A, C can cue A, and can cue. You now have like 4 or 5 different nodes that connect and possible hooks for your memory to remember the thing. So if this architecture of what we're doing helps you remember the steps, one more kind of memory cue or memory kludge for it, then I'm happy to lay it out. And I think it also kind of grounds us in the theory a little bit more, which is one of the things that one of the reasons why a lot of accounting programs, if not all of them, have you go back over all of the intro managerial accounting stuff in an upper division class. Well, now that you've kind of passed through that 206 level class, which is what we have here in Boise State for the intro class, let's go back over a lot of that material, get into more advanced things, and also kind of get into the reasons why and deeper into it so that we can have it more natural. Okay, I want to remind us of that before we go and approach the quiz. So let's look at this 6-3 FIFO part 1. So part 1, there are 3 steps of process costing. Which steps does part 1 deal with? Steps 1 and 2, exactly. Thank you. Yeah. So FIFO here, FIFO part 1 here is going to ask you to calculate TEU using FIFO and rates using FIFO. And so we need to make sure we include this in our TEU calculations and make sure we exclude this from the numerator in our rate calculations. That's going to be the translation from 6-1, which also asks for TEU, but with weighted average, and also asks for rates, but with weighted average. We just remember these 2 pieces, and we can transfer a lot of the knowledge from 6-1 to 6-3 here. So let's attack some questions. Okay, so here we have a TEU question, total equivalent units. That's what TEU stands for. And it's asking with respect to conversion costs. So we're going to focus on conversion costs, just one class of costs using FIFO. So beginning inventory consisted of 15,000 units, and they're 50% complete with respect to conversion costs. Ending inventory is 7,500 units, and they're 25% complete with respect to conversion costs. We also started 105,000 units this period. All direct materials are added when units are 40% complete with respect to conversion costs. We can ignore that sentence for this problem. It's only asking about the conversion costs, so I don't care what the percent complete with respect to direct materials is. All right, so let's set this up. In fact, I think we've been over this a good number of times. Let's give you a chance. Let's give you a minute or two, and I'll work on the Excel file on this page. You work on that problem, and we'll check back in, see which one you think is the right answer here. All right, anybody come with an answer so far? At least one person with an answer? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, 106,875. Exactly. Yep. That's what I got as well. Did we get that? Other people got that too? Okay. Anybody got a different answer and is brave enough to say it? You know, it takes bravery to say, I got that one wrong this time. Yep. Yeah, let's go over it. Yeah. Okay, let's here. So I set up the problem, first of all, with building my little T account, beginning WIP units started, ending WIP units, and then I calculated units completed. I copied over the percents for conversion costs right here. I also copied over direct materials because I'm probably going to grab this and copy it down for future questions where we do worry about direct materials, but you didn't have to have these two cells here. And then I wrote out the FIFO total equivalent units equation here. And then I wrote the three terms that are in there, units completed. I just copied down over from here. And then beginning WIP equivalent units means the beginning WIP 15,000 units times their 50% complete, giving us 7,500 units total as beginning WIP equivalent units with respect to conversion costs. Ending WIP similarly is the ending WIP physical units, which is 7,500, times their percent complete, which is 25%. And that gives us ending WIP equivalent units with respect to conversion costs of 1,875. And then I just carried out this equation I wrote in this cell here. I took units completed minus beginning WIP equivalent units plus ending WIP equivalent units. And that is our total equivalent units with respect to conversion costs. And I bolded and italicized total there. So the total here represents the total units worked on this period. That's what we want to know. The rate is going to tell us that we're going to create a rate with this, and we want the denominator to be the total amount of work done. And we have the total amount of cost per work done in the numerator to create a rate so that we're going to be able to figure out, well, how much of that work cost goes down to the ending WIP, how much of it goes to units completed and transferred out. And in FIFO, total equivalent units, as in the total number of units we worked on, we're more particular, and we're saying, well, we're not including the work done last period, that was beginning WIP equivalent units. Whereas with weighted average, we basically have bought that work from last period, and we're going to redistribute it on anything we do this period, as if we did it all this period. Does that help, Tyler? Okay. I'm repeating a few times already today a few sentences and phrases to try to help you discern between FIFO and weighted average. I know that's not relevant to this quiz. It's all FIFO. I'm hoping that it lays a groundwork so that those last 2 weeks of class, when we're doing the review quiz and then, of course, the final, that it's helpful as you do have on the same review quiz or on the same final the two different methods, and you're going to have to discern between the two. We'll lay a foundation for that. We'll come back and build on that foundation at the very end of class when you do have to compare them. On the final, it will say which method. Yep, just like this. These same questions are in the test bank for the final. Yeah. So I've tried to make it easy to tell. The trouble is if you haven't built up what it means when you read FIFO versus weighted average. That's what I want us to the barrier I want us to overcome now, so that then when you see it on the final, like, oh yeah, I know what that means. Check. I know the procedures now. But yes, good question. Yeah, it'll show up just like this. Okay, so here's a step 2 question. Let's work on this one, eh? And let's do the same thing. Let's give I'll make this full screen. Oh, not like that. And I'll pull this over here, and we'll do a minute or two. I don't think we didn't spend too long a time. You were stuck in boredom forever on it. Okay. So let's do a couple minutes here. I think that's the whole question. Let's work on that one. All right. We gotten some answers? Yeah? Okay. What do we get? It's brave. Yeah, Samantha. 1095 is right. That's right. Great. So let's start. Well, what did you do? Excellent. And that's it. The exit ramp where you're going to get this problem wrong is doing more than that, and saying, oh well, I'm supposed to sum these, aren't I? And all your weighted average instincts come in, and you add this and this together, which will give you this number instead, 1195 right here. That'd be wrong. That's true under. This would be the right answer under if it said using a weighted average process costing system, but it does not say that. It says FIFO, so we use this one right here. All right, I'll pull over the Excel spreadsheet in case you're curious. So I put them both down. Again, I think I'm going to probably copy this down if we do further questions like this. But we're only worried about conversion costs based on the question stem right here. And we need a cost per equivalent unit. And in FIFO, we're only going to be distributing current period costs between units completed and ending WIP. So that's all we're including in the numerator. And I've already given you TEU. And I was nice this time. Look at this. I didn't even give you any sort of red herrings that you would try to calculate a TEU number somehow and get it wrong. I just gave you the TEU, and there's nothing to distract you from that. So hopefully that's coming through clearly. And then we're just dividing those two. Great. Okay. All right, let's go through another FIFO TEU question, but this one transferred in costs here. Okay. Here, I'll be working on it, but I'll work in silence, and you can follow along, or you can work on it yourself, and then we'll check back in just a minute here. All right. Other people get 33,000 as well? Some nods? Good. Okay. This question mark, we don't know what the beginning WIP percent complete is with respect to conversion costs. We were given the ending WIP percent complete with respect to conversion costs. And so I'm trying to tempt you with this. Oh, well, we can't figure it out because we can't get beginning WIP equivalent units because we don't have the percent complete. But the rule is, in this sentence right here, there's a rule for materials, including transferred in materials, they're all out at the beginning, which means with respect to transferred in materials, they're 100% complete. Yeah, Yana? This right here? Or right here? No problem. Added beginning WIP and unit started and subtracted ending WIP, all the physical units. Okay. All right. Okay, gonna move on from this one. Is that all right? Oh, yeah.
So there's a problem on the quiz. It's not in that format, but it gives you the ending WIP percentage, but it doesn't say like everything was added at the beginning of the judgment. So would that one cannot be determined?
It sounds like it would be. So it's asking for a transferred in cost or direct materials cost. Okay, for direct materials and conversion costs. Okay, and then it doesn't have anything to indicate when direct materials are added at all.
No, it's one of the spring.
Okay, let me peek at it.
This. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it looks like it wouldn't be determinable because you have the physical units for beginning WIP, but it doesn't tell you any percents complete for that. Yep, good catch. So yeah, we can. That can be the answer sometimes. It just wasn't in this particular case. This question right here on the board. Okay. So yeah, we need to know we've maybe we didn't say it all the time, but maybe it's still in the back of your head, the pattern of we ignore beginning WIP percent complete, and you can get away with that in weighted average because you don't really care. That isn't really anything special. That beginning WIP, they just give you it donates a certain amount of cost to this period's work, as if it were done this period, and maybe it overall it diminishes how much extra work you have to do, but that's not being accounted for at all in the calculations. So you can get away with never knowing the beginning WIP percent complete doing your weighted average calculations. With FIFO, that's not true. You need to know the beginning WIP percent complete, and we got around that only because by rule we know what the percent complete is with respect to transferred in costs in this problem. Okay. All right, skip on past. I want to get some of the open answer ones here. So let's make sure we get the one right here or above. Number 6. Yeah, let's do that one. All right. So number 6. I'll go through this one here and talk out what I'm doing. All right. This is FIFO open answer direct materials rates question. All right, so a department uses the FIFO method of process costing. All direct materials are added at the beginning of the process. Oh, great, good. We know the rule now. All direct materials are going to be 100% complete, beginning and ending WIP. This department has the following data for the month. We have 103 units in beginning WIP, 31% complete with respect to conversion costs, 8,404 units started, 182 units in ending WIP with 33% complete with respect to conversion costs. And then we have our beginning WIP and direct materials and conversion cost numbers, and our current period direct materials and conversion cost numbers. All right. The question sim is asking for direct material cost per equivalent units. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore the information about conversion costs and including the percents complete with respect to conversion costs. I already know by rule all the direct material percents complete are 100. So we have 103, 8404, 182. I'm going to not use the sum function. Beginning WIP plus units started minus ending WIP. That gives us units completed. And I'm going to need that units completed. I need to subtract away beginning WIP equivalent units, and add in ending WIP equivalent units. They're all 100% complete, so beginning WIP equivalent units is 103, just the number of, same as the number of physical units in beginning WIP. Ending WIP equivalent units is 182, same as the physical number of physical units in ending WIP. And so I'm just going to take units completed minus beginning WIP plus ending WIP. Now, in FIFO, if this helps you as a shortcut, in FIFO, when direct materials are added at the beginning of the process, so they're always 100% complete, your TEU will always equal units started. Because we add in beginning WIP and subtract out ending WIP to get units completed. And then we take units completed and we subtract away beginning WIP and add back in ending WIP. So we have added and subtracted ending WIP, and we've added and subtracted beginning WIP. We're just left with units started. It's only true in this limited case. If that's a shortcut that helps you and it doesn't create errors in other problems that aren't, when it's not true, then more power to you. That's great. You can use that. So 8404 is not just by chance this unit started. It is always going to be the case when you have direct materials or anything where it's always 100%, where they're 100% complete in beginning WIP and ending WIP. Okay, so that's our denominator, and we have 89822. I'm only worried about that. That's our current period direct materials costs because that's my numerator. Take that amount, divide it by the denominator, and that should be my answer. Let me double check, make sure I haven't copied anything over wrong. 89822 is right, and 8404 is the unit started, which ends up being units completed. I mean, in case I went through that too quickly, we have, I want a new one. There. The idea is we have units completed equals beginning WIP units plus units started minus ending WIP units. And then we have TEU under FIFO equals units completed minus beginning WIP units, beginning WIP equivalent units rather, plus ending WIP equivalent units. And so the rule goes, if you plug that in now, let's plug this in for here. And if ending WIP physical units equals ending WIP equivalent units, and if beginning WIP physical units equals beginning WIP equivalent units, which is why it only works for the direct materials when they're 100% complete, then these two cancel out. Beginning WIP minus beginning WIP equivalent units is the same thing. And these two cancel out. And you're left just with units started. That's the algebraic shortcut there in this one narrow case. Okay. So 10.69 rounds up to that. All right, which cells, any cells you want to see on that again? We would need to use the total equivalent units with respect to conversion cost as the denominator, but yes, the numerator is right there. We would have a different total equivalent units because conversion costs aren't, beginning WIP physical units is not equal to beginning WIP equivalent units, so we can't cancel them out. And ending WIP physical units is not equal to ending WIP equivalent units for conversion costs because they have these percent completes that are less than 100%. But yes, everything else was right there, what you said, yeah. Okay. All right, let's do an open answer TEU. I mean, we did some TEU calculations as part of this. Or would you rather do a dumpling comprehensive as in step 1 and step 2. Okay, let's do this problem. So it's going to be, the dumpling question, part of it is going to be relevant because we have we are asking for the direct material cost per equivalent unit in the question stem. And we have this sentence right here which says, direct materials are added at a certain point in the conversion process. They're all plopped in at a certain point. So let's read the whole problem. Let's read it. The department uses the FIFO method of process costing. All direct materials are added when conversion costs are 54% complete. All right, so by rule, I can peek down here already and say, so we're past the threshold with our beginning WIP units, these 176. So they've had all their direct materials added. Their percent complete is 100%. But if I look down at ending WIP, that 28% has not crossed the threshold yet. So it has 0% complete with respect to direct materials, those ending WIP units. Okay, let's keep going. This department has the following data for the month, and then I can start building a little T account. And I want to use one of these up here instead. Just for the T account. This is FIFO open answer DM2, a dumpling kind of problem. All right, so we have 176 units in beginning WIP, and they are 74% complete with respect to direct materials, with respect to conversion costs, which by rule means they've passed the threshold of 54%. Therefore, 100% of the direct materials have been added, so they're 100% complete with respect to direct materials. All right, looks like we have 10,211 units started. We'll add that right there. And we have 220 units in ending work in process. They are 28% complete with respect to conversion costs. That's well before the threshold. So the water is just barely starting to nothing's happened to it yet, really. It's just warming up. And so therefore we haven't added all the direct materials yet. Not even little bubbles at the bottom yet. Okay, so now we have our units completed, and we can figure out, I want to do, this is what I want to do. I'll copy this over. I want units completed. Grab it. Okay, so units completed. I need beginning WIP equivalent units is going to equal to 176 times the percent complete with respect to direct materials, which is 100% for beginning WIP. Ending WIP equivalent units equals the 220 times their percent complete with respect to direct materials, which is 0%, so it's going to equal 0. So our TEU for direct materials is 9,991. So because we don't have 100% ending WIP and 100% beginning WIP percent completes, we don't have that TEU equals units started. Okay? Don't think, shortcut, I'm going to use it every time. You will get a lot of questions wrong in that way. It's just that one narrow case in which it applies. This doesn't work. It wouldn't work in this case. All right, so there's our TEU with respect to direct materials. And I only want to worry about the direct materials for the current period. We're in FIFO, so these direct materials and conversion costs in beginning WIP, they're like off limits. They are set aside. They have been, sometimes I say they've been like put in orbit. They'll circle around at the end of the period, and they'll make their journey to units completed. But we're not gonna touch them while we're doing any of this unit 1 or step 1 or step 2 calculations. So just send them in orbit. They'll come back around at the end of the process to be added in as the cost of units completed. We're just worried about current period direct materials costs. So 114,448. Okay, that is our current DM costs. And we can take those current DM costs, divide them by our total equivalent units with respect to direct materials, and we end up with our direct materials rate, which is direct material cost per equivalent unit. So it should be $11.46, rounding to cent. Okay. So this works very similar to the previous problem. Just the percents complete are a little different because we have beginning WIP 100% complete, ending WIP 0% complete. All right. Questions about that? No? So we did that one. We did this one. I said we're going to do this one. Yeah, let's do this one just so we make sure we have a more robust set of open answer questions we do, and you don't come away from today thinking that we are only ever doing this procedure here. We're going to have to multiply by some percents complete here because this is talking about conversion costs. All right, so the question stem here says, what are total equivalent units with respect to conversion costs? All right, TEU, I know the equation for that is in FIFO, units completed minus beginning WIP equivalent units plus ending WIP equivalent units. And their conversion costs, which almost always in these problems have percents complete. So we have 834 units in beginning WIP, which are 45% complete. We started 27870 units during the period, and we have 890 units that are 50% complete with respect to conversion costs at the end of the period. All right, real simple calculation here for units completed. Beginning WIP units plus units started minus ending WIP units. That's units completed. Or IMLOTs completed. Units completed there. Okay, I'll copy that over just to be all nice and tidy. And then we need our beginning WIP equivalent units with respect to conversion costs, our ending WIP equivalent units with respect to conversion costs, because we're going to subtract those out. Beginning WIP, 834 times their percent complete. Ending WIP, 890 times its percent complete. That should be our answer there. Units completed minus beginning WIP equivalent units plus ending WIP equivalent units. Okay. All right, let's paste that in. Okay, looks like we answered 6 of the 8 questions. So 5 points each. We skipped one 5-point question and skipped one 2.5-point question. So we should get 22.5 points on this if we got them all right. $17.5. Where did we get things wrong? Or did I count it up wrong? Skipped that one. Skipped that one. We didn't like 11.46. What did we do wrong here? Well, I'll come back to that. Come back to that later. Yeah, it's those dumping problems for some reason have been the ones that have given me the trouble. I can't think of a reason why the troubles would coalesce around those problems. Yeah. There's something comforting about there being a pattern, though, I guess, to a certain degree. Okay. Well, any 6-3 kind of questions you wanna check on? Yeah, Yana. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we can do that. If you'll feed me the numbers, we can do that. FIFO to EU transferred in costs. This is like an open answer question. Okay. So I'm guessing we have beginning WIP units of some kind. Go ahead and read out the information to me. The whole question if you want, or sorry. Go ahead. With respect to conversion costs then? Okay.
Started 25,103 units.
25103.
And ending with is 741 units. With 19%.
Okay. And then does it have a rule for?
All direct materials were transferred and costs are added at the beginning of the process.
Okay. So with regard to transferred in costs, I can put 1 for 100% for both the beginning WIP and the ending WIP. So yeah, we're going to have units completed here. And, well, the beginning WIP and the ending WIP are 100% complete, which means that the beginning WIP and ending WIP equivalent units are equal to the beginning WIP and ending WIP physical units. So we should come up with the units started as the total equivalent units in this case. This should be one of those narrow cases where it works. Well, let's just double check. Yeah. Did I copy that number down right? I want to make sure I heard it right from you. 25,103? Okay. So yeah, our TEU in this case equals our units started, because it's one of those materials added at the beginning of the process is really what it boils down to. Those kinds of questions, and it's asking about the material TEU. The materials TEU equals units started. No problem. Okay. Okay, well, what I think I will do, okay, we'll see if we have more 6-3 questions, and then I will take a look under the hood of this dumpling problem after I finish we'll finish the video, and then I'll look at the dumpling problem. Unless you want to go on and look at 6-4, because you're excited. Oh, I see some nods. I heard some nods. Let's leave it at 6-3. Let's take the win. All right. You know, sometimes you got to consolidate your victory. We'll do that. We'll consolidate. All right. Other 6-3s you want to look at? We got Thursday, and you could be the first one to email me about a problem on Friday. I don't know if it's the first one, but it hasn't been very common to email me on Friday about a question. Okay. Well, let's stop there. We're early, but I'm giving myself some time to make sure that this problem is all right, and I'll commit to sending out an announcement about the problem. Either, hey, it's fixed, or it was good, I just did it wrong, and here's how the right way to do it. Okay.